Hey everyone, I recorded a live Q&A today, but my microphone happened to be pretty messed up and I wasn't aware of it. So there are some chunks missing from this um, live Q&A session that is now turned into a podcast. However, I did try to fill in the blanks where I was able, so I hope you're still able to enjoy. The session started off with someone asking me the question, should they cut dairy products out from their diet, or what do I think about them cutting dairy products out from their diet?
That's really specific. So it's specific to the person cutting dairy out, it's specific to your gut. Obviously, if you're experiencing GI distress because of dairy and because you are, intolerant to dairy, then you should absolutely cut it out. You shouldn't be eating dairy if you have an intolerance to it or if you're allergic to it. So this is definitely context and person specific, but in general, I would say if it's bothering your stomach and you know for sure that it's dairy or it's doing something to you and you know for sure that it's the dairy, then yeah, you should definitely cut it out. I would say if you don't know for sure that it's dairy that's bothering your gut, or if you're someone that uses dairy often as like a protein or a fat source, obviously it can be kind of hard to completely cut it out. So what I would say is go with fermented dairy and aged dairy first. Those are usually easier on the gut because of the enzymes that are in your gut and are the enzymes that are used to either ferment or age the dairy. I also say to most of my clients that I would aim for about 80 to 90% of your fats to come from plant based sources anyway, just because of the type of fat. So, if you're somebody who gets a lot of fat from animal based sources and fat from dairy, I would caution you to, or I guess challenge you to try getting some of your fat sources from things like olive oil, olives, nuts, seeds, things like that, that are more plant based, just because of the type of fat. Next question is for those of us who have same day weigh ins, what would you recommend as a snack slash drink, if anything? I always recommend something, if anything, to refuel in the hour or so that we have between weigh ins and our matches. So that was the first question. There is a second part to this question. First part of this question, I always recommend same day weigh ins are kind of weird as far as like refueling strategies, mostly because you really shouldn't be cutting that much water for same day weigh ins anyway, because it's just not the smartest thing to do. You don't want to go into a competition dehydrated, or at least severely dehydrated, like you would dehydrating yourself for a 24-hour weigh in or something like that. So, for same day weigh ins, I recommend always that right after you weigh in, you get good carbs in, you get water in. Typically, for same day weigh ins, I do not have my clients actually cut water per se. So, like, you wouldn't do like an actual like sauna water cut or anything like that. For same day weigh ins, I actually have my clients, typically what I do for them is I don't cut carbs, so using carbs as a cutting strategy for same day weigh ins is a little risky. I don't have them cut carbs. What I typically do is I have them just do like a very, very, very short water fast, essentially. So maybe the day before or something, they wouldn't be drinking as much water. So I would say right after you weigh in for same day weigh ins, you always want to get water in and you want to get more carbs in. So, Carbs specifically for anything performance are extremely important because that's your body's main source of energy. So, or, for an athlete when you're normal and you're not doing a keto diet, because you're not going to perform on a keto diet. Sorry, it's not going to happen. At least not for an extended period of time. So the second part of that question, oh, and I would go with simple carbs because it's something that can digest fast. So think like peanut butter and jelly, sometimes fruits, anything that's not going to disturb your gut. Sometimes if we know that your gut is okay with it, I'll even recommend something like candy. Refueling with Gatorade or sports drinks, something like that is good too, just because of the carbs. So the second part of that question is similarly for a BJJ tournament with gi matches in the morning and no gi matches in the afternoon. Ooh, this is a good question. Both of which have separate weigh-ins shortly before matches start. What would you recommend as a good option for lunch in terms of nutrient composition? So, you do not want to eat anything between those two times that is high in fiber or high in fat, just because you don't want to risk any GI stress. But you do obviously want to refuel from your morning matches. So what I would say is following the same guideline kind of as like the first question. You always want carbs to be your number one like refuel source, right? Like you always want to start with carbs because that is what is going to keep you hydrated and what is going to give you energy. So you want to do anything like a sports drink or carbs, and obviously please make sure you're drinking water between your matches, and staying hydrated. And then you can do like a small amount of protein as well, so just make sure that it's lean protein. So something like even a protein shake, if you want that, you could do like a protein shake with water so that it's lean protein, and then you could also do simple carbs. So same as the first part of that question, just with added protein in. You can also add the protein to the first part of that question as well, but mainly carbs are going to be your number one resource for same day weigh-ins, and any weigh-ins really, but same day especially. Sorry, I'm still a little sick and it's gross and I apologize. So the next question is, what is optimal nutrition timing? Since you've told me that's probably a factor in why the weight isn't coming off. I don't know who asked this question, so this is very specific to you. I have no idea who asked this question. A lot of the time, I get this question from a lot of people, and nutrient timing is usually a big factor in why people's weight doesn't budge. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are not in a deficit or that your weight isn't moving. It could be you're weighing yourself at, an inoptimal time, or a bunch of other factors. But optimal nutrition timing, usually, let's just say, I don't know who this person is who asked this question. So let's just say you are one of my athlete clients, which I would assume that you are. You always want to make sure that you're eating within like a 1 hour window, eating carbs within a 1 hour window before you train, even if it's just simple carbs. Now, we have this very common misconception that you can only eat 3 times a day, which is crazy. And I don't go by that. You can eat as many times a day as your little heart desires. But for somebody who is trying to optimize performance and lose weight, it's really important that you make sure that your carbs are eaten around your training times. So if your carbs are eaten around your training times, you're utilizing most of those carbs and they're not immediately going to storage for later. So if you are the person who asked me this question, since this was anonymous, message me on our client app and let me know if this was you, and I will go into more detail during your check-in. The next question is, do you think it's worse to be someone who gains weight easily and has a hard time losing weight, or vice versa? I feel like this person just knows me really well, but I think they can be equally. Ooh, I just bumped my camera. I think they can be equally as challenging. It really depends on the person. It depends so much on genetics, on your metabolism, on your dietary history, on your medical history, on so many things. As a person who is what we would call a hard gainer, it is very difficult for me to put on, you know, a lot of true weights. So I gain muscle relatively easily, but putting on weight in general is pretty hard for me. And all of that has to do with the fact that my metabolism is kind of just primed for performance. So I basically just have a hard time putting on weight because I use a lot of what I put in my body. So in order for me to eat at a surplus, I would have to be around 3,000 calories a day plus, which if you know me, you know how small I am. I fight at 105. So eating that many calories every day consistently can look like a lot of food for somebody my size. So I would say in gaining weight, as somebody that is on the opposite end of that spectrum, it is pretty difficult, but I think like mentally you just have to do it. Like you just have to get through it. Just like when you are trying to lose weight.
So here my audio cut out again, but I basically just talked about working with a nutrition professional to gain or lose weight and how it can make it easier for you.
If that makes sense, because that way we can give you more pointed and direct advice versus you just doing starvation diets or doing whatever you think is going to get the fat off your body when usually there are a lot of other factors in actually getting fat off of you or losing weight in general. Honestly, a lot of people, if they're changing weight classes, it can be a problem because sometimes, depending on how much you want to how much you want to drop in your weight class, you have to you know, lose muscle as well, and that can be hard for everybody because you have to make sure that you're in enough of a deficit to, you know, and be ready mentally to lose a little bit of muscle so that you can make that weight. And nobody really wants to do that, which is why it's always really, really, really fucking important for you to make sure that you're in the right weight class so you don't have to do that. I actually have a video I'll be posting tomorrow, I think, about body composition and MMA and you know, why body composition doesn't necessarily equal like incredible performance. Next question. Is it better to train super sport specific movements or get generally stronger and then train your sport so you can use that strength? I'm going to have to read that again. Is it better to train super sport specific movements? I'm assuming strength train is what you're asking. Or get generally stronger and then train your sport so you can use that strength. I would say, in my opinion, strength training for your sport is always ideal if that is the sport that you're interested in doing, which sounds like insane and duh, like when I'm saying that. But if you are training to fight MMA and you are doing powerlifting for your strength training, it's not necessarily, you know, wrong or not necessarily not going to help you. Like, you're still going to get stronger doing those movements, but the movements as far as mobility, coordination, muscle memory, all of that stuff is not going to be specific to your sport. So I would say you should be training movements that are not necessarily sport specific, but will train the muscle groups that you use most in the sport that you're training. I hope that makes sense. I think that makes sense to everybody. Did I say that right? I hope so. I think that that's like pretty powerful because obviously if you're out here training Olympic weightlifting lifts, but you are fighting, those two sports don't necessarily correlate with each other and the movements are very different. So no matter what, you always want to make sure that you're training sport specific movement all the time just to build that, you know, muscle memory and timing, that kind of stuff. How was your Thanksgiving? That was nice of you to ask. It was good, pretty boring, pretty chill. I worked. I had a couple client meetings, and then I ate a lot of food. What does your day-to-day look like now that you've gone all in on the business? My day-to-day is fucking awesome, and I love my business so much. It's pretty cool. So my day-to-day is pretty chill and kind of what I've always wanted. So I wake up, I eat food, I meditate, and then depending on the day, I either do client check-ins or I do some research or I watch some business classes, class videos, take some more classes. I'm always learning. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to quit my 9 to 5 is because I didn't feel like I could learn there. And I'm somebody who really thrives on learning new information and teaching. I love teaching and I love coaching. So basically sitting in an office all the time for me, it wasn't necessarily sitting in the office. It was more so that I didn't feel like there was room for growth. Hi, Jada. I didn't feel like there was room for growth as far as like intellectual growth. It just felt very stale and stagnant. So now I get to spend my days learning about things to help myself, help other people, help me be a better coach, help me be a better teacher. And I think that that's really, really great for me. And then also I can focus more on my own nutrition as well. The reason why I think I'm such a good coach is because I am able to relate to everybody that has a super busy schedule. So I started this business and was running this business full time, I worked in an office, literally in the Sears Tower, downtown Chicago. And I was there 8 to 9 hours a day plus my 2 hour to 3 hour commute total. So, and then I would go train for 3 or 4 hours at night. So I got really good at like understanding what I needed to do for meal prep and what I needed to do to make sure that I was like as successful as possible and could run my business and make sure that I was, you know, primed to perform when I was able to fight as well. And then also I was running this business on the side, and I was running another business on the side. So now that I'm just running this business and I'm not working a 9 to 5 plus two businesses plus training basically all the time, it's been really nice. And my husband works overnights, so now I can see him too, which is cool. Brayden said, "Oh wow, I didn't know that's where you're working." The Sears Tower, is that what you're talking about? It sucked. It was fucking terrible. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. Um, I think this is the last question of my client questions. So, someone said, where do you want to be with TGE performance in, say, the next 3 to 5 years? This is my favorite question I've ever been asked. So, I'm super excited because I have a lot of things in the works for the golden era. If you didn't know that that's what my business stands for, it does stand for, the full name of my business is the Golden Era Performance. But I shorten it to TGE because it's shorter. But I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, I see myself helping a lot of people, teaching people a lot of new things about nutrition and performance. And as somebody who's always keeping up on trends for nutrition and performance, and constantly learning, I think that it makes me a really great coach and a good person to learn from because I'm always updated with new information. So that is really exciting for my business in general because that means that I just get to keep growing. And as my business grows, obviously it's very new, but I do have a lot of like really, really cool things in the works for the new year that I don't really want to spoil yet. But I am very excited for them, and I think that I'm gonna end up truly helping like a lot of people. I would say in 3 years, I think that I could definitely be or will be one of the top nutritionists for fighters to go to. I am really, really good at my job, and I don't say that to be, sound conceited or anything, but I have lots of people come to me who have worked with some of the top nutritionists, like in MMA, and are fighters who are pro and have worked with top nutritionists in MMA, and they say that just the way I structure things and the way I do things is very different from other nutritionists, and I look at things very holistically. So I don't just look at nutrition, I look at performance as well. And I'm excited in the new year to kind of roll out a new method of working with my clients that really does take all of performance holistically into account. So I like to think of it as like a trifecta. So you need like 3 points for creation, right? So I like to think of it as creating the complete fighter. And I did ask a question like this in my stories the other day, like, what do you think is a complete fighter? But I like to think of my business as a business that builds complete and confident fighters. Just because I think it's something that everybody could work on, and I think that it's something that's really cool. So like I said, think of it as a trifecta, a triangle, 3 points, 3 points of creation, three strategies to make a complete fighter, and those points are performance, preparation, and recovery, right? So in the new year, I am definitely diving all into all three aspects of those things for my clients. And I can't wait I'm trying so hard to not say what I have in the works because I'm so fucking excited about it. I'm super stoked. And the few people that I have told are like really also stoked on it. So, but yeah, I think that.
So of course, my mic cut out again here, but basically, I just talked about some of the things that I have going on in the new year without giving too much away, and that those will be the 3 points of a complete fighter that I will be focusing on in the new year and focusing on to build my business a little bit more and to help as many fighters as I possibly can, competitors as I possibly can. So I hope that you enjoyed this live Q&A. I'm going to release it as a podcast as soon as I get this recording exported, and I hope that you keep listening. Follow me on all the socials. On TikTok, I am the MMA nutritionist. On Instagram, I am TGE Performance, and I am going to make a YouTube account and upload this right now. So we will have another social account. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.